Hey, you guys, Josh Sathi out here in Singapore, and thank you so much for joining me on the Night Owl podcast. We are back at it, you guys. I swear to God, there are 9 pieces on this list that Create the Love actually wrote, and it's about avoiding your own healing and examples of when we tend to avoid our own healing. So I've been through, I've been through 6 of them already, but this is the 7th one. So real quick, we're going to recap. We've talked about dating projects. We've talked about taking responsibility for other people's feelings. We've talked about obsessing over other people's behavior and how they hurt you and betrayed you or, broke your trust somehow. The things that they've done that have affected you so badly. We've talked about reading and researching and hoarding information only to keep them very carefully in a place, but not actually apply them to our lives, and how that doesn't actually help us grow either. To say that we know these things isn't the same as saying, I've experienced this, I've tried this, and now I know that this works for me or it doesn't work for me. The idea of falling in love with the potential of somebody and missing the red flags along the way. The idea that we need to fix our partner in order for us to be happy because they're the problem, not us. But honestly speaking, it takes 2 hands to clap, y'all. So if they need to fix some things, you need to fix some things too. Okay. So the next one on this list is to date unavailable people. And I think this one was the hardest one to get through because I wasn't sure if I could actually explain why it was that I dated unavailable people. And I can't even say dated like I dated a lot of people. I've dated, I think, 3 people now. And I have been attracted to unavailable people. And we've had a couple of brief conversations only to find that they're unavailable. So I'm not going to benefit here and I just need to go on my merry way. But what does that mean? Right? A lot of times, if we are afraid of commitment, we find ourselves attracted to the idea of the kind of connection that doesn't require too much of us. And that's where I kind of figured, okay, well, this is how maybe this works. This is maybe why I'm not healing. I was talking to people who were otherwise coupled with somebody else or were in an open relationship, and that doesn't work for me, honestly. But at the time, I was so desperate for a connection, I figured, okay, why not? Okay, it doesn't require too much of me. I don't have to go the whole traditional dating route. I don't have to go and see you. We can just call and talk to each other, whatever. I've been in booty call situations. I've been in situationships. I have learned that some of these connections really do not work for me. But I always used to wonder why it was that I was attracted to unavailable people. Why? Because it suited my needs at the time. I didn't have to give so much of myself. I didn't have to plan for a future with these people. Right now, at the moment, it works. But when I started to catch feelings for them because it was safe and it didn't require too much of me and I was able to give more and suddenly I was catching feelings, that's when it started hurting me. And I started realizing that I was chasing behind somebody that didn't want to be caught in the first place, which in and of itself sounds bad. Why would I chase somebody who's running away from me? Correct? But I didn't understand the idea of dating an unavailable person. If this person tells you up front, they're not looking for a connection, they're not looking for a connection. But why is it that we feel the need to, but you know what? In the back of our minds, we think we're going to be the one that changes all this. We're going to be the one that, becomes that one true connection for them. And so we start to fill the void by ourselves and chase after these people and try and become all that they need you to be in order to really secure the relationship itself. But that's not what they're asking for. And at the time, it may be appealing to you because they don't need very much. Does that make sense? So case in point, I was attracted to a man that was overseas just after I'd kind of dug myself out of depression after my divorce. And I thought it'd be really great to connect to this guy because first of all, there's a time zone difference, so I don't have to call them all the time. I don't have to check in all the time. They're not right here in the same country, so I don't have to tell them where I'm going, what I'm doing, who I'm with, any of that. It's safe. It's something that my husband used to do that should drive me nuts. But I didn't have to do that with this guy, so that was helpful for me. It was in my own, for my own convenience. And eventually, what ended up happening was I got attached to the idea of this connection. It was like when you first start talking to somebody, you're talking to many people, right? And a couple of conversations stand out, a couple of people's personalities stand out, and you think nothing of it, and you talk to them more and more often. And eventually, just like that, I started getting attached to the idea of this connection. And because it started in such a place where there was not so much required of me, I was ready to give more and they weren't. And that's the funny thing about timing, right? But they warned me up front. They weren't looking for a connection. They were looking for a time pass, basically. So I have no one to blame but myself when I find that I am actually dating someone who's unavailable. It's not always the case, obviously. Some people have started off in a situation where neither one really wanted much of anything. They were maybe looking for a friendship or a connection, and eventually it grew into something great. But it isn't guaranteed. Although we like to pretend that it is. We like to think that every connection that we find ourselves interested in, the other person is also interested in. But that is the thing with chemistry, with probability, with the idea of being able to find somebody who really does work well with you, communicate well with you, is able to understand who you are, what you need, wants the same things as you at the same time. That is the real difficulty in life at the moment. So when I tell you that I was actually attracted to someone who was emotionally unavailable, physically unavailable, I had done that on purpose. And unfortunately, I had painted myself into a situation where, while I wanted more, they were incapable or not willing to give anymore because they weren't in the same place as me. So as difficult as that was, and as heartbreaking as it is, I needed to become more stringent on what connections I build into my life. I've had many connections since then, people that I speak to that I thought were really great, people to get to know, people that were overseas, people that were in the same country as I am. And eventually what I found was I needed to know what I wanted for myself before I could ask anyone else of the same thing. So what used to be, a conversation where I didn't mention the fact that I was divorced or how old I was or that I had a child became, okay, let me say all that stuff up front and see if they still stick around. Let me scare them with everything that's like terrible about me and see if they still stick around. And unfortunately, that still doesn't work sometimes. They may not like the fact that I'm older. They may not be okay with the fact that I am a divorcee. They may think of me as damaged because I'm a single mom and have already, failed at one marriage. But that's not my problem. If I can tell them all these things and they stick around, I figure, okay, maybe we can build a friendship out of it at least. I've come to expect way less from any of the connections in my life, mostly because I just don't want to be disappointed anymore. I need to know, and I've proven that to myself. I've proven that I can make it on my own. I don't actually need a romantic connection to build anything in my life or succeed in my life or make money in my life. That is not what a romantic connection is for. Instead, I can find intimacy and friendship and companionship in many different forms, and I don't have to feel like I'm at a loss in that regard. And so eventually, while I did start dating unavailable people or being with unavailable people, I learned for myself, because I had to focus on myself, that what I was looking for was as a result of my own comfort zone. It was because of what I was not ready for myself. And instead of blaming the other person for not being ready, I actually learned that it was okay. It was okay for me to find people that were convenient for me at the time, and when it was no longer convenient, be ready to let them go as well. Because hanging on for dear life, trying to make myself fit into what someone else needed, was not beneficial to me at all. It actually ends up hurting me in the long run, because then I'm looking at, I've invested this much time, I've done this, and this for them, I've given up, I've sacrificed, I've done so much, and they still don't appreciate me. And so where does that leave me? The fool with all the expectations, unfortunately. So rather than do all of that, I needed to acknowledge the fact that yes, sometimes I date unavailable people or go after unavailable people because of the convenience. And when I start catching feelings, which I usually do, then it's on me to be honest with the situation itself and not to get so caught up in the expectation that it hurts me. So I don't know if this applies to you. I don't know if it makes sense to you or not, but I wanted to make sure that you understand that this is also possible, that this is a choice you make, because you do know, because you do ask, and they will tell you. And whether you hear it with both ears or not, or you let it in one ear and out the other because for now, okay, that'll work, I'll just get my foot in the door, that's on you. And that's something you need to be ready to face and answer for yourself, or you're going to hurt yourself with your own expectations. Now, yes, that was blunt. That was probably really in your face. I'm telling you because I've done it myself. It's hard to get over, but I have to be honest. And the only way that I can change and become better is to be honest with myself. So if you have questions, comments, any criticisms at all, that's fine. I have no problem with that. But I want you to know, everything in your life, you do have a choice about. You have a choice in the people that you date. You have a choice in the type of job that you take. You can say no, it's okay. But once you say no, know that you've chosen something. And whether you realize it or not, most times, choices can be unmade. Choices can be reversed. No, you don't get the time back, obviously, but if you got into a relationship and you end up married like I did and miserable, and the person was no position to change ever because they didn't see anything wrong with themselves, it's okay to undo that whole thing and file for divorce and walk away if that's what you need to do to keep yourself sane, to keep yourself happy, to make better decisions in your life, to become more productive, to be more satisfied, to have more peace of mind. Whatever you have to do for yourself, that is your choice. If you're telling yourself you don't have a choice, you need to look at why. Who told you didn't have a choice? Why is this not a choice that you can make? Does it hurt so many people? And that's a podcast episode for another day. But just know, you do have a choice. You can choose. It is within your wheelhouse to make that choice. It just depends on whether you're ready to make that choice or not. So I hope this helps you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one, yeah? Bye.